Hi everybody, this is the Baseball Head, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Your host, welcome back to the Baseball Head 2, and hope you like this video. Hit that subscribe button. So the New York Knicks made a massive trade on Friday. They traded Julius Randle, and well, we're going to get into this. This is a big trade. A lot of people were very surprised by it, and the Knicks paid quite the price to get a very good player in Karl Towns with the Timberwolves. So I'm going to read you a couple things. Here's CBSSports.com. Karl Towns trade grades. Knicks and Timberwolves both win in mutually beneficial blockbuster. The Knicks and Timberwolves are making the biggest trade of the offseason. As you know, the Knicks season begins on October 22nd, so we're a little over 3 weeks away from the start of the long NBA season. The Karl Towns trade between the Knicks and Timberwolves is a rarity even in NBA terms. This league is certainly no stranger to surprise blockbuster trades. But surprising blockbuster trades the weekend before training camp begins involving two championship contenders hamstrung by a new collective bargaining agreement designed in part to kill deals like this. Yeah, that's a new one. Both the Knicks and Timberwolves entered Friday a 2024-25 championship ambitions. These two teams could face each other in June. They are both leaving Friday with a 2024-2025 championship ambitions. Yet they've swapped reigning All-Stars and drastically remade their rosters mere days before training camps are set to begin. The closest analog to this deal historically would probably be the Kyrie Irving-Isaiah Thomas swap of 2017. But even that deal came in August. Nobody has time to be shocked. The season unofficially begins on Monday. So what are we to make of this trade? What motivated two potential finals teams to shake up their roster so drastically? And how did both teams do in the deal? Here are the grades for Friday's shocker. The Knicks, they say the Knicks got a B+. The Knicks had two major problems to solve in the next year. The short-term issue was the center position. Isaiah Hartenstein left in free agency. Mitchell Robinson is injured. He's going to be out till at least December. He's going to be out for quite a bit. Tom Thibodeau teams are incredibly reliant on size. New York was at some point going to need to take a swing on a center. The long-term issue was Julius Randle's contract. He's a three-time All-Star that makes more sense as a floor raiser than a ceiling raiser. He needs the ball in his hands to succeed. His jump shot is inconsistent, so is his defense. He's never quite figured out the pick-and-roll dance with Jalen Brunson. Though in fairness, the Knicks largely didn't ask him to. He was in a sense a relic of a team they no longer had. He helped build the culture that Brunson inherited, but there was a pretty strong argument against this fit on a Brunson-centric team. He just wasn't going to have the ball in his hands enough to justify the sort of contract his accolades suggested he would get. And I would say, the thing about Randle is he's a good player, but he can't stay healthy. And they really missed him at the end of the season. Not having another option to score points was a big problem for the Knicks. The Knicks saw both of those problems in one fell swoop. Towns can play either power forward or center, a rarity among modern bigs, and a very valuable one for a Knicks team that is also pretty heavy invested in Robinson. The Knicks have their short-term answer, and to get it, they ducked their long-term Randle problem. The Towns fit is much, much cleaner. He's not just a good shooter. He is by almost any statistical measure the greatest shooter ever to play the center position. Interesting. Having that caliber of shooting out of a big man changes everything. The Knicks don't have to worry about defenders ignoring Josh Hart nearly as much anymore. Do so at your own peril, giving him unfettered access to the glass with this spacing would be downright irresponsible. The difference between New York and Minnesota, though, is that the Knicks are far better suited to taking advantage of the rest of his gifts than the Timberwolves. Towns is a stellar pick-and-roll finisher. He's never really been able to show because the Timberwolves didn't have worthwhile guards early in his career. And by the time Anthony Edwards became a star, Towns was playing in a poorly spaced lineups next to Rudy Gobert. Jalen Brunson is going to love him. Does Towns create defensive issues? Yes. But they're workable when you have the right personnel. The Knicks emphatically have the right personnel. If they determine he needs to play next to a traditional rim protector, they have Robinson. Truthfully, though, He likely starts as New York's only big man. He's very good in space, taking advantage of his athleticism to clog up passing lanes and stifle ball handlers and more aggressive pick-and-roll defenses. Tebow tends to demand quite a bit out of his rim protectors, but just think of a perimeter defenders on this roster. How often could anybody get past OG Obunobi, Miguel Bridges, Josh Hart, and Deuce McBride? A newbie can even defend centers when matchups dictate it. Towns couldn't be joined a more perfect roster for his specific skill set. Losing Divenczo stings. McBride can't be a feast or famine reserve anymore. He's the sixth man now, a role he more than earned a season ago. You'll hear complaints about his contract. He's certainly overpaid. 4-year Supermax would make most teams queasy. And we'll soon cover. It's why Minnesota needed to trade him in the first place. But this is the flexibility Jalen Brunson's discount buys you. The Knicks can afford this deal because Brunson and eventually Mikal Bridges will subsidize it. That's a luxury no other team had. The money's going to be tight for the Knicks. They lost meaningful depth and are now mostly out of tradable first-round capital. The big moves are done now. Either some version of this team is capable of winning it all, or the Knicks aren't going to do it. But the sheer magnitude of the talent upgrade here, given the picks the Knicks already owed, Brooklyn makes this a win. That win comes with risk attached, but they were the risk the Knicks had to have to take given the potential reward. Now, Minnesota, they also get a B+ in this, according to this article. Minnesota wanted to admit this, but Minnesota had to. Nobody wanted to admit this, but Minnesota had to trade Karl Anthony Towns. There's an argument in favor of waiting a year. The Timberwolves just came 7 wins shy of a championship. Typically, that's a team that runs it back, but Minnesota saw what happened when New Orleans tried to trade Brandon Ingram this summer. It has never been harder to trade a player who expects max money when he doesn't consistently produce at a max level. Towns doesn't just expect max money. He's locked into it for the next 4 years. There were plausible scenarios in which Minnesota tried to make a trade of this sort next summer and couldn't. That is how restricted the new CBA is. It was now possibly never. The Timberwolves elected not to risk the never. Minnesota is not New York. Edwards, Rudy Gobert, and Jaden McDaniels are all earning market rate. Naz Reid has a player option for the 25-26 season that he will no longer decline for a raise. In Randle, the Timberwolves are taking a flyer on a cheaper alternative. Timberwolves are paying, and they talk about the money. The shooting drop from Towns to Randle, especially on a Gobert-centric roster, is going to hurt. Divenczo will help in that respect, but he's probably not going to close games unless Randle isn't. Now, Divenczo, I would say, as a player, he is a money player late in the game. He had one of the biggest points ever scored, the biggest shots ever made in the history of the New York Knicks this past postseason. He will be the one that will be seriously missed with the Knicks, more so than Randle. Like I said, Randle didn't play much the last 2 month and a half through the playoff run. He was constantly hurt. He's always hurt. But Divenczo was a guy that was a killer, and it breaks up the whole thing with Villanova, with Brunson and Hart. So it's kind of difficult to sort of continue to sort of, not going to be able to do this anymore. And this is from SNY. Knicks trading Julius Randle to Timberwolves for Karl Anthony Towns and 3-team deal. Donte Divenczo is also part of New York's second massive trade this offseason. This is a tough trade. Divenczo was that good. Knicks have made a blockbuster deal Friday that will bring Karl Anthony Towns to MSG. According to SNY's Ian Begley, New York is sending all-star forward Julius Randle and Donte Divenczo to the Timberwolves. A future first-round pick via Detroit and Keita Bates-Diop also headed to Minnesota as part of a 3-team trade. It's also sending salary, including Daquan Jeffries and draft compensation to the Charlotte Hornets. But they're going to lose Randle. He was such an important piece, for the whole culture of the organization. But more importantly, Divenczo on the court is going to really, his absence will hurt this club. That I do know. But this is very exciting because the Knicks are one step closer to being a championship team, and they were so close last year. But they just sort of ran out of gas. They got hurt. There were so many injuries. OG was hurt. Brunson was hurt. And obviously, Randle missed a lot of time. And that's what killed them. They sort of ran out of gas. And they just didn't have enough talent at the end to keep up. Well, you let me know what you think about this video. Of course, please subscribe to Baseball Hut 2, and I'll see you later.